Are paternity tests banned in France? Let's talk about it.
All right, so today we're going deep on something pretty interesting, I think, paternity testing,
Mm-hmm.
but with a French twist.
Okay.
So have you ever heard about how France handles paternity tests?
I have heard about it, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because they've actually banned at-home DNA tests.
Really?
Yeah, completely illegal in France.
Wow.
And you could even face some pretty hefty penalties, like a big fine. I think it's like $16,000 or something, and even potentially jail time.
Really?
Yeah, so it's serious business over there.
Jail time, huh?
Yeah. That's wild. So we're going to unpack all of that today,
Yeah.
especially for those of you in France or who have family there,
Okay.
or maybe you're just curious about how different countries handle this kind of thing.
Right.
So let's start with why France would even ban something that seems so commonplace in other parts of the world.
Yeah, it's really interesting because France has this deep-rooted cultural emphasis on family unit. It's not just like a recent law. This idea is woven into their history and their social norms.
Right, so it's almost like a cultural value.
Exactly. And they've actually built a legal framework around this idea,
It's interesting.
aiming to preserve family structures and minimize anything they see as a threat to that.
So what happens if someone in France actually does want a paternity test?
Well, it's not completely off the table.
Okay.
They do allow legal paternity testing,
Okay.
but it's under very specific circumstances. It's
Yeah.
very controlled.
Okay.
So, for example, if a court orders it as part of a legal dispute,
All right.
or if it's required for immigration purposes where you need to prove biological relationships,
Right.
that's when it's allowed.
Okay, so there's a difference between like casual at-home testing and the legally sanctioned stuff.
Exactly.
But why are they so strict about the at-home kits?
Well, the government argues that widespread unregulated paternity testing could really disrupt families.
Oh, I see.
Imagine a scenario where suspicions or doubts lead to all these tests,
Yeah.
and then suddenly secrets are revealed.
Right.
Families are destabilized.
Right.
It could be quite chaotic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they believe that by making these tests harder to access, they're actually protecting families from that potential upheaval.
Right, so it's like a preventative measure.
Yeah, in a way.
But what about the individual's right to know about their biological parentage?
That's a great point, and that's where the ethical debate comes in.
Yeah.
Some people argue that this ban actually infringes on individual autonomy
Right.
and the right to access information that could be really life-changing.
Right.
But others say that in these cases, the potential harm to families actually outweighs those individual interests.
It's a tough one to balance for sure.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about France, but didn't Germany also implement a similar ban?
They did. They also prohibit those direct-to-consumer DNA test kits.
Okay.
But their reasons are a little different. They're primarily concerned about data privacy and the potential misuse of genetic information.
Oh, interesting.
So it shows you that France isn't alone in questioning this whole idea of completely unrestricted access to these tests.
So if someone in France finds themselves needing a paternity test, what can they do?
Well, the best thing to do is to talk to a family law expert in France.
Okay.
They can guide you through the legal process and explain your options.
Okay.
There are also resources like IDTO DNA Testing Center.
Okay.
They specialize in DNA testing services, and they can provide really helpful information about navigating these complex situations.
Gotcha.
Their number is 888-204-0583 if you need to reach them.
It's amazing how different the process is compared to countries where you can just buy a kit online.
Right?
Yeah, but we've been talking about the legal side of things.
Yes.
But what about the cultural aspect?
Yes.
You mentioned that family unity is a big deal in France.
It really is.
So how does that actually play out in everyday life there?
You see it everywhere. Family gatherings are really important.
Okay.
Multi-generational households are very common.
Got it.
And there's this strong emphasis on supporting family members no matter what.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful aspect of their culture.
So it sounds like the government's approach to paternity testing is a reflection of that.
Definitely.
They're trying to avoid anything that could potentially cause conflict within families.
Right.
It's like a preventative approach to family harmony.
Exactly.
But I guess there's always a flip side to that, right?
There is.
Could there be downsides to this kind of emphasis on unity?
Well, some critics argue that it could sometimes enable or conceal issues like infidelity or parentage disputes.
Oh, I see.
Sometimes transparency is important.
Absolutely.
And they question whether this pursuit of harmony might sometimes come at the expense of open communication and individual autonomy.
So it's a trade-off in a way.
Yes, very much so.
It's fascinating how France has chosen to navigate these complex issues.
It is.
It's a unique approach that really makes you think,
It does.
especially compared to countries where at-home DNA tests are readily available.
Yes.
But it's clear that their stance is deeply rooted in their cultural values
Absolutely.
and their perspective on the importance of family.
It is.
So it's not just about a law, it's about a whole way of life.
Precisely.
It really gives us a lot to think about.
It does. It leaves us with this question. Does prioritizing family harmony ever justify limiting access to information
Yeah.
that could be so personal and impactful for individuals?
It's a tough question
It is a really tough question.
with no easy answers.
No easy answers at all, and every society grapples with this in its own way.
Yeah, it's definitely something to ponder.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
It was a good one.
But hopefully this has given you some food for thought
Yeah, definitely.
about the complexities of paternity testing and the different ways societies approach it.
I think so.
Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for having me.
and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Sounds good.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Know Before They Grow podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you need reliable DNA relationship testing services, don't hesitate to contact IDTO at 88-820-40583 or click the link in the description to visit them online today. Thank you for listening. Take care.